Hello, everybody, and welcome to GoindieNow. And I'm your host, Joe Compton, and welcome to a live coffee break. And joining me today, I'll have him introduce himself in just a second, but the wonderful, awesome writer, poet, humanitarian, musician. Probably there's not a whole lot of artistry this man can't do. Mr. JD Estrada, sir. Take it away. Tell us who you are and what you're all about.
Well, first off, as an artist, I do suck painting. So, that and drawing, I can do doodles apart from that. But I am JD Estrada. I am a Puerto Rican indie author who moved to Georgia because I wanted to have more opportunities and be stateside and have nice warm weather. And this winter has reminded me that, wow, was I off. It's been a crazy winter. But apart from that, I have published 10 books. 6 of them are poetry, 5 are in English, 1 is in Spanish. Another book is a bilingual collection that has poetry, short stories, and essays. Actually has a bilingual poem in the middle, dividing English from Spanish. Actually, that book is doing pretty well in a website that I'm supporting called Libro 787. It's a Puerto Rican run business promoting Puerto Rican authors worldwide. Nice people, good dynamic, and they offer genuine support. Apart from that, I do have a short story collection set in the world of dream, which is middle grade-ish. And I do have 2 novels in the human cycle, so which is like an urban fantasy. And in short, I don't get bored. And I'm actually having coffee. Ooh, we're having technical issues. I don't know if I'm live. Verifying this. This says that I'm still live. So if this is live, this is going to be super hilarious for Joe. Something you should know about Joe, if this is your first time watching this channel because you're here because of this mug. Joe Compton is a wonderful human being. He's one of the hardest working people in indie anything, and he promotes a lot of people, including myself. He had some very kind things to say about me, but I have a lot of kind things to say about him as well. As a human, he's super genuine. As a writer, I'm still pending to read his book, and apparently he's back. Joe, I don't know if I was waffling into the void or if this is actually recorded and I was still live.
I don't know either. I just dropped out. Sorry about that.
No, we'll find out. If the connection stayed live, this is going to be a really interesting coffee break. Are you going to see me that I just ramble and talked about you also being wonderful?
Oh, thank you, sir. That's awesome.
And actually, I made an exception. Normally, I have 1 coffee a day and all the tea that I can handle. This is actually my 2nd cup of coffee.
Uh-oh. There's no telling what's going to lead to this now.
Errands being done fast. That is what I'm looking for.
All right. So let's, since we're back, let's get to our questions real quick. And so question number 1, Mr. Estrada, is if you had to use 1 line you've written to describe the artist you started out as, what would that 1 line be?
I think it's on my bio in most places. I said that as a kid, I wanted to be an inventor, and I just didn't know that I was going to do it using words. And I think that still rings true, and that will always ring true in regards to what I do and how I do it. There's something really fun about creating, and for me, creating using words. And when I say creating, I use that, and I prefer the title writer than author. Because I love to write. I love writing reviews. I love tweeting thoughts that might upset people. Luckily, no one has gotten upset. Apparently, trolls are avoiding that channel, and I'm really happy about that. And for people's birthdays, I always do my best to write like a full-on message privately, because I don't write on people's walls for fame. I write to the people directly because I love them. And actually, today's my best friend's birthday. So, Trovi, happy birthday.
Very nice. Cool. That's awesome. So near the end of a project, what is the emotion you find yourself more often than not feeling, and how long does that feeling typically last?
Well, I'm always working on several projects simultaneously. People say, "Oh, you're always putting out so much work," and the thing is that I'm always working on a lot of things. So I might start off publishing one, and then it's like, okay, I finished this one, so let's also finish this one. The feeling is it's a combination a combination of emotions. Firstly, there's always, since the first book, there's always like, is it ready? Is it really ready? Is it ready? And then you see the print preview and you check it again and you check it again and you see one typo or you see one space that's off and you go like, okay, so let's do it from the top and let's revise it. And it's part of the emotion is that agony of, I really hope it's over. And another really common emotion, some people get depressed and affected and different things. I don't. I'm always saying, okay, what's next? What's the next thing that I'm going to finish? And that's normally my emotion and sentiment with most projects. It's just, you become attached to characters in different ways. Some people say, well, I have to say goodbye to them. I don't necessarily say goodbye. I bring them back in different stories. And I do a lot of cross characters and cross plot points as a fun thing for me as a writer and as a fun thing for anyone who takes the time to read my entire bibliography. Basically, there are characters right now that are in Only Human that appear on the Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore, and that will appear in a middle grade fantasy that I'm writing. You will also see mentions of different characters in other short stories, like a nod. There's a really important, my personification in stories is Fayette Odstein. It's a double anagram, one in English, one in Spanish. Fate and Odstein is Destino anagram. And he appears in that manuscript that I told you about, the middle grade. He appears in the Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore. He appears in the Human Cycle, and he gets mentioned in the sci-fi that I'm working as in Odstein Industries, meaning that he is involved there in some way. And he's always around because he's the one that cracks the whip and says, "Keep writing, buddy." I think we have a lag.
Yeah, there was a little lag there. You're talking about your association with the two characters in Sherbet Shore, and then it disappeared on me.
Okay, I'll repeat it this time quickly. Fayette Odstein is my personification in literature, and he appears in different stories and in different ways. It's my way of unifying my literary universe as it is, and it's just a fun thing to do and a fun way for me to keep myself in check.
Very cool. We're live, everybody, so you're just gonna have to bear with us in terms of the lags and stuff. It's just part of the process, and I just want to, while I give Mr. Estrada a chance to clear his throat and everything, I just want to mention that he's not double fisting coffee. He's got 1 cup of water and 1 cup of coffee there, but he is on his second cup. If you missed that earlier,
yeah,
we are.
It's like this is
because no telling what could happen with JD in his second cup. So.
No, the dark side is coffee. The light side is water.
That's awesome.
So GoindieNow is the dark side.
Yeah, right. I'll take it. So, dealing with critics, you found it's always best to what?
It depends on the point where you're at in your writer journey. For me, right now, it's listen. Some people have stuff to say. Some people have stuff to bark. If someone's barking and some people write to get attention through their review. And it's like, oh, I'm such a magnificent review, and this is such a pile of dung. Those people, you pay attention in the terms of taking notes and saying, yeah, you're gonna be in a story. But other than that, you have to know how to differentiate when people want to help and when people just want to waffle on. A lot of people genuinely want to help, and when I see my reviews, and the recent reviews I've gotten in the last couple of weeks have shed a light on several things that I'm definitely taking on board and taking into account. Some people get hung up on, oh, it's a 3-star review, it's a 4-star review, it's a 5-star review, and I get that because rankings and ratings depends on where you appear and whatnot. I don't have much faith in algorithms, so eventually I just hope that people stumble upon me. I think that's my approach. It's not totally effective when it comes to sales, but then there's a surge of sales, and you see people that read, comment, review, share, recommend, and it's not like I was forcing anyone's hand or saying like, yeah, if you do this, I'll do that, or whatever. It's not quid pro quo. It's people genuinely wanting to help you on your writer journey. When you see people do that and that they don't offer a one-line review, but like, several paragraphs, you copy paste that, you have it in a document, you read it, and you see what were they trying to say, because sometimes people read things, oh, I would have done it this way. That's not necessarily what you have to pay attention to. I liked this because of this. That you should, because it's not to say that you have to pander to people or do anything to cater to anyone's specific taste, but it's something that it's cool to have in the top of your mind. Right now, I did send that middle grade fantasy. I got beta readers. And it's been a really interesting experience because each person has really liked something very different. Wow. And that's what I wanted. The idea is, without offering spoilers, there's a magical house with different rooms. I'm just going to say that. Each room has its set of characters. Each room has its little plot. And people gravitate towards different things, and different things resonate with people. Some people resonate to a kung fu master. Other people resonate to spiders. Other people resonate to a young girl who rides tornadoes. So that's my ideal scenario. But you see what people like from each one, and rather than saying, oh, I have to do more than this, it's gauging, okay, I did this right, I can do more stuff like this, and someone's gonna get on the same page.
Yeah, very nice. That's a really great approach to it. I mean, the ratings and the star mapping, it only is numbers when you think about it. It doesn't give you anything as a writer. I mean, you get some personal pride maybe, but to be quite frank, it's more about the substance of what people are telling you that matters, right? I mean, that's all it's about.
Yeah, and to me, it's all about the star rating making sense with what's being written, because I have a 1-star rating, but the thing is that I read the review and I go like, oh, that's like a 2 or 3 star. Why did you gave me a 1-star out of spite? You were having a bad day, you hadn't had your coffee, and you're like, 1 star. But this was great. And I'm like, if something is great in a story, automatically it's not a 1 star.
Right.
And if something is great, that's already pushing it towards 3 star to me, because the word great, associating that with a 2 star, I have trouble with it. But that's the way it all goes to how you rate it. For me, a 5 star is something that I want to own and reread. For a 4 star is something that I'm so happy that I read that I want to tell someone else. A 3 star is that, okay, it was a good read. A 2 star, it met most criteria but kind of fell short. And a 1 star is I want to hit someone with that book. If the zombie apocalypse comes and we need kindling, that's a good book to use for kindling.
Awesome. So I'm really happy to have you doing this with me this morning, because not only are you an author, but you are a musician. So I'm going to, the 4th question in my 5 questions is really geared toward authors, so I had to recreate another question for when I interview musicians. So I'm
Okay.
going to ask you both if you don't mind, and then I'll ask you the fifth question as well.
Dude, I always talk a lot. It's never a matter of if you can ask or not. It's like, okay, you have to write this. You can shut up now. This is great stuff, but we're on the clock. So ask away.
So the first one is, if you were a mad scientist and you could actually bring one of your characters to life, who would that be and why?
The thing is that most of the characters that I write are loosely based on a combination of people.
Sure.
So having to step back and see who would I bring to life, it would probably be a creature from the Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore.
Nice.
Because those I write as stream of thought, and I honestly think in the second volume that I'm actually writing, if people can actually read the Daydreams on my blog. You would have to search for it though. I think it's episode 6. There are real people that I bring and I invite to those short stories. It's a weird concept. It started me just stream of thought, and then it became a get well letter to different people in my life. The third story, if you see the book, there's like volume 3 and then volume 3.1. And that happened because a friend of mine underwent surgery. And instead of saying, "Oh, I hope you get better," I wrote a short story based on her healing process. But if I don't tell you it's about that, you won't notice.
Right.
So every time you see like a real name person, that's actually a real person. But in each of the stories, there's different things that respond to different people. I think in episode 6, there's actually a floating continent that becomes a bird. It's like, try to imagine a peninsula that's landlocked, and then it breaks free and it flies off and it becomes like its own thing, and it's called Felinia. And it's actually the native country of of a good friend that I invited for that daydream. And that's a really special one, because it's my most get well sentiment for that person. And in each of those stories, man, I think it's all great. But I haven't published that. I'm gonna add one more thing. In the one that's actually published, I would love to see the Kung Fu Circus. There's a Kung Fu Circus, and no animals are used there, because obviously. And the acrobats there and how they do different things, I would love to see in real life. But especially, there is a woman who juggles fire, and she's actually one-armed, and she's described as extremely beautiful. And I would love for more people to see people like that. Just because someone lost an arm doesn't mean that they can't be beautiful or talented, or just make you gasp.
Mm-hmm.
And that character, I think it would be really cool to see in action, and to promote different beauty standards than the ones that we have.
Nice. That's awesome. I just want to read a comment from the chat. Christy Stratus has joined us, and she made a comment, and thought you'd really enjoy the comment. And it says, "I like when there are underlying things where you can read a story one way or a totally different way. That makes the story so much deeper."
Yeah. I like that too. I like to offer wiggle room in my different stories, and that's I think that's why I really love poetry.
Mm-hmm.
I hate English teachers that overanalyze poetry, but I love poetry. Because poetry, they're like song lyrics, and everything that we write stops being ours, stops being like mine, and it becomes ours with me and the reader. So what they interpret and what they get out of it depends wholly on them. It goes back to, if you see Pearl Jam, Alive is actually a really frustrating song about Eddie Vedder's life experience and not having a dad, or finding out he was the father he grew up with was his stepfather. so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And it became an anthem for people that are still alive, which is very different from the original intention. I've had people tell me that one character struck a chord, and I go like, wow, that character? And they say that, and I go, wow, I hope you read the second book, because somewhere deep in that underlying shared psychology, I might have felt the same way. And there's a character in Only Human called Indigo, and I thought I had underdeveloped him and that I could do something really special. And one day I realized what it was. It's not like, oh, I got this idea. It's like, no, this was always the case. And that's it's always a really interesting thing when you're writing. And the revelation of that character in the second book, who's still dead. It's not, I didn't do a cheat like, oh, I brought him back from the death, from death. That trope is done too often in soap operas to me even consider. But what I did with that character, I really hope that the person that told me that comment from the first book reads it and they go like, oh, wow, I didn't look at it that way, and that it's actually something positive. But it's not mine. It becomes ours. And I think that's one of the aspects I really love about writing.
Me too. I agree. Because when you're sharing an experience, there's nothing like it in the world, Yeah. So here's the alternate question that I asked my musicians. If you were a promoter, you could put together your dream show. I already know who's on your bill, so I could answer this question for you. But if you put together your dream show, who would be on the bill?
Okay, how many? Is it like a weekend thing or just one show?
Just one show, but it could be all day. It could be an all day concert, like a rock AM ring or something to that effect. But here's a caveat too. Okay, I will allow you one dead musician, but only one, and the rest have to be current alive musicians.
No, that actually makes it tough, because the last 2.5 years have been rough for anyone who's a fan of rock music.
Yes.
I would have to think of the dynamic of the show and people playing with each other. That would actually change the lineup. Depending on who's the musician who's passed that I would choose. If I chose David Bowie, the lineup would also include Nine Inch Nails and Tool, simply because they've played together. There's a dynamic, and they feed off each other. But although David Bowie hurt, I'm still hurting because of Chris Cornell. So basically, it would be. Let's get creative.
Now, here, I will allow this if you want. If you want to do Soundgarden and Audioslave doing a back-to-back set, because all the rest of the musicians are alive, so you could do that technically if you want to do that.
No, but I love Audioslave, but it's no Soundgarden.
All right.
There's people who would say the opposite, but Soundgarden as a kid struck a chord. But here the lineup would be different. It would be. I'm trying to get the opening act, a good, solid opening act, and that's the tricky part. It would be the opening act, which I'm still thinking in the back burner. Then it would be Soundgarden. Then it would be Pearl Jam, and then it would end with Temple of the Dog.
Okay.
Because I wasn't able to see Temple of the Dog in the small tour that they did in 2016. And I always said that Pearl Jam was a band that brought me away from hip hop, because my first CDs that I bought were the soundtrack to CB4, Snoop Dogg's The Dogg Pound, and Dr. Dre's The Chronic. And then I started lifting CDs from my brother's collection, but the one that really hit me hard was Temple of the Dog. I always thought it was Pearl Jam and it was through 10, but it was actually because of Hunger Strike.
Right.
And that album, 10 songs, and you go like, oh God, why didn't they do more? And just to see that 10 song set and see them playing different things, it would be really special to me. There's other musicians that would love to see live, specifically Alice in Chains, Lane Staley, and Blind Melon, Shannon Hoon. Shannon was a musician that I think he is vastly underrated. I think their 2 CDs show a band that had all the potential in the world. And to me, the death of Shannon actually hurt more than the death of Kurt for varying reasons. Kurt wasn't in a good place, and he was constantly suffering from all things. It's like, I think a quote said, a good day is when I can eat a pizza and not have to vomit, because physically he was affected by different things, and obviously mentally he wasn't doing well. Shannon wanted to quit heroin, and he actually, at least in an interview, it seems that before he shot up the last time, he actually spoke to his brother. His brother was like, "Please stop doing this." And so it's a more tragic end, and you see the lyrics of both. And although Kurt was very cathartic, as a lyricist, I think Shannon Hoon is one of the most beautiful lyricists that I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of music. It's worth reading the lyrics on their own. That's how good he was for me. As a vocalist, he was peculiar. As a guy, you know that the guy was all about having fun, and he would drop trow and run through a field of poppies naked and stuff like that. And, it has that positive vibration. So I think that would be my lineup. And still, I was trying to buy myself some time in terms of an opening act. And you know what? I'm going to be selfish. I would have Elbow as the opening act just because I want to see them live. And I think with a lineup like Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and Temple of the Dog, people would actually give Elbow an opportunity. And although there's a really huge disconnect in terms of the music, Elbow is one of my top 10 bands, and I don't say that lightly.
I was going to mention I had the opening act for you. It was JD Estrada, but
well, no. If I could play a song, okay, Soundgarden. The only thing I could even dare to try would be part of Overfloater. Temple of the Dog. I think All Night Thing I would like to join in there. And with Pearl Jam, Indifference. It's a really sad and dark song, but I can kind of sing it, and it's a song that means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. So you never got the opportunity to see Alice in Chains with Lane Staley?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, man.
Incredible show. I know I missed out. I've tried to find footage of him playing I Stay Away, and I've never heard Lane sing that live, because that's when he was really bad at, with heroin and whatnot. And it's a shame, because that song is amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the MTV Unplugged thing. Have you not?
No. I Stay Away. No, it's not there. It's my favorite Alice in Chains album is the Unplugged, because people say, the best Unplugged is Nirvana. In terms of song selection, yes. In terms of taking obscure songs and making them famous, they did a hell of a job. And people go like, "Oh, who's that song from?" It's from Bowie. And people go like, "Really?" So in that sense, it's got a set list that makes no sense. And then you see it in the concert and you go like, wow, they did something special. Alice in Chains took all of their songs, stripped them bare, and played them better than the albums. And there you go, like, oh. And I don't know. I like
both of those Unplugged, but this is going to be a surprise for most people who know me. I'm a metal guy, but I'm really an all-encompassing music guy when it comes down to it. And my favorite Unplugged episode ever is Jay-Z's, actually, because he had the Roots band with him. It was they did a cappella versions of a lot of his hits. It was that album is amazing.
I will give it another listen, and I'll get back to you on that.
All right. But I agree that Alice in Chains and Nirvana those are the high marks, for definitely, and for the exact reasons that you mentioned. But so evening the playing field, where you never have to be concerned about money, time, resources. Give us one way in which you would be the same artist you are now, and one way in which you would be vastly different.
The same would be me tapping into all my influences. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and I love including little Easter eggs in my stories. And people say, was this because of Tori Amos? And I say, yes. Was this because of AC/DC? And I say, yes. Is this because of The Who? And I say, yes. But those are the ones that are band related are a bit more obvious. There are other ones that respond to different influences. In Only Human, there's a scene that actually is influenced by Super Mario. If you play a Mario game where those levels where there's a light going and you have to stay close to the light so that a block appears, that dynamic of light impacting surroundings and changing if they're functional or accessible or not, it plays very, very much so in a chapter. And that's always something that I'm going to do as a nod to the things that have made me smile and have made me so happy as a gamer, as a reader, as a music fan, as anything.
Is there any Neil Gaiman in there?
And there's always, I think with Neil, it's more of I think Neil is more of an influence rather than me giving a nod to him. I think the nod to him would be how I treat certain characters in the second novel. He did Dream and the Endless, and I explored other topics like chaos and order. And I personified them in a different way. And that's like, that would be my nod to Neil. In terms of authors, Neil Gaiman is the most special one to me. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of J.K. Rowling, but with Neil, it's the more I read, the more I go like, wow, this is kin. And it's a really special experience to read something that chimes something really deep in you that you don't necessarily understand until you read it. More overt would be Tolkien. There are the Yggdrasil in the Photogeny in the Human Cycle are a tribute to him, and actually to C.S. Lewis. There's a mention of something very Narnia-esque, because the first book that really got to me that I was like, oh, I love this. The first book I really, really, really loved was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And the funny thing is, I read that when I was like 9 or 10. And it took me, not when I was 10, and it took me 16 years to finally taste Turkish delight for the first time. And it was worth the wait of 16 years.
Nice. Very cool.
In terms of how I would be vastly different if money weren't an issue, although fortunately I have a job that I like, and I work with people that I like, I wouldn't have to have the day job, and I would be able to focus on writing and more creative projects. But that's the simple answer. The more complicated answer is that I would tackle on different things. There's life goals that I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to because I haven't met the right people that have the right budget that can do the things that I want to do. Sure, I want to do a movie, but the movies that I want to do, I want them hand drawn or stop animation. Live action, The Human Cycle would be a great live action series, not movie. If they did a movie, they would screw it up because it's just too much stuff going on for them to edit it and make it cohesive and for it to make sense. And that's not me saying, oh, I'm a badass. It's me saying, wow, I wrote so much stuff that if they do a movie of this, it's just gonna bomb. But then there's video games. There's 3 video games that I would love to do in my life. One would be a platformer. It would be, and I would love it for it to be, I'm going to put it out there because if you put it out there, who knows? Have you ever heard of That Gaming Company or That Game Company?
Sure.
They're the creators of Journey, the creators of Flower, the creators of so on and so forth. I want to make a platformer in that vein that has no violence, that is based on creativity, that promotes people to unwind, relax, engage their brain in different ways. And I love that. But I would love to do that with Nintendo because in terms of controls and what people can do with a control, I think everyone's playing catch up with Nintendo. Yes, there are better games in Xbox for some people or PlayStation. I get that. But what you can do with a control, every new console, they do something different. and they engage your brain differently. And that's why I'm such a big fan of Nintendo. So there would be that one. There would be a mashup RPG that would be so dense that it would take me forever to write. But I like dense things. But it's something that I would like it to feel steampunkish, but throwback, but futuristic at the same time. People say, well, that's steampunk. And I'm like, no, I would like different parts of the story to push more towards each. Even include something Western and just have it be this massive adventure where people just don't know what's coming next. And lastly, for now, because if I had unlimited resources, I would love to make a bodyboarding video game, because there was a surfing video game way back when by Kelly Slater, and it's the best video game that there's been right now. The best surfing game is online, called uwriting.com. You can play it for free. It's a lot of fun. But I would love something to help promote the sport I love the most and that has impacted me the most. It's not going to make... The other two would make money. This one wouldn't make money, and I don't care. I would want it to exist, and I would want people to go, oh, that was beautiful to play, and it was flat today, but I was able to play, and that helped me get through the day. That would be the goal for that game.
Nice.
And I might actually try a Kickstarter, because there's a project that I have that is 19 books that I would want to release simultaneously, because I'm crazy like that. So if I didn't have to worry about the budget and I could make it the way that I wanted to, that would definitely, take a step up in the pipeline, and I would work on that. And I'm working on that, but it's going to take me like 10 years to write. Easy.
That's those are all lofty, wonderful goals, and hopefully, I'll echo what Christy said in the chat. She said that we need to hook you up with Tim Burton, and and that these things come together in the strangest ways, and they could happen at any time, at any moment. So you may not need unlimited resources for that respect, but I think that having goals is an important thing as an artist, and I think that those, even having dreams, is important, and you never know, my friend. I think if anybody gets there, I think it's certainly you. I think especially the 19-book series, I think that's something that will happen, because I know you, and I know how well you put your mind to something. So
I'm a stubborn guy, and I would also record several albums. It's like studio time.
If I could request anything, that would be the one thing I would request of you for sure, is to record it.
I'm trying to get the equipment to do it. Who knows? Maybe I'll have a friend that goes like, "Oh, you wanted to do this? I got a day," and I'm like, "Well, let's try to bang it out in a day."
There you go.
And I'll lose my voice, and I'll have carpal tunnel, but I'll have an album.
Well, this has been a real pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And
likewise, thank you for having me.
Of course. Before we go, let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on. So,
well, if you look JD Estrada writer, that's how you're going to find me in most social media platforms, or the main ones. By main ones, that does mean that I don't have a Snapchat and I don't have Twitch, I think it is. But I do have Twitter, JDEstradaWriter.com. JD Estrada Writer, sorry. I do have Instagram. I do have Google+. I do have Facebook. And I do have YouTube. Since, the throat in the coughing is there, the YouTube activity has been on the low. And also I'm short on time. But that will be changing soon. Anywhere else to find me. If you want my physical books, you can go to Amazon, or you can go to Libro 787. If you were to ask me, go to Libro 787, because everything that you purchase there helps support a Puerto Rican business.
Nice.
They're doing well. They're taking strides. They're offering support to a lot of indie authors from Puerto Rico. And I like them. And for me to like someone, that means that they're being genuine in what they're doing. And Amazon is just Amazon.
Right.
Yeah, it's convenient. Yeah, I could get a sales ranking, whatever. I'd rather you buy it from Libro 787, but that's just me. The freedom is yours. I'm also doing something, although on a limited basis, called Estrada Crates, where basically I have on my blog. The blog is jdestrada.writer.blogspot.com. It has an explanation there what Estrada Crates include. If you're not in a rush and you want several books, you can order and you have a PayPal account, because that's the only way that I can charge money. You can contact me via direct message in Twitter or Facebook, and we'll hook up how we can, get my crate to you. Because I don't have a website yet. I do hope to remedy that soon, like a personal website. And in terms of what I'm doing, I'm finishing that middle grade fantasy novel. I still have to format my first nonfiction collection from the blog. I am editing my first full nonfiction book that I've written as a book, which is called Peace, Love, and Macurolls. Anyone who's seen my blog or seen how I sign off, they'll know that phrase. I'm working on a bilingual poetry collection. I'm working on a Spanglish poetry collection. I'm designing a haiku poetry collection, and many other things. Like I said, if there's anything that doesn't happen to me, I don't get bored. I might get tired. I might get sick, but I never get bored.
I can attest to that. Everybody go check that out. I'll have all the things that JD was talking about. I already have all his links in this description box, but I'll add the Libra link that he mentioned after we're done here, and so we'll have that, so you can go and help Puerto Rico out, because that's awesome. That's an opportunity to do that. And so with that, everybody, it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you we'll see you later tonight. If you guys are watching this on Sunday, I will be live on Facebook at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and taking your questions and talking to everybody. And I'll be there doing my normal chat, or my now normal chat, I should mention. This is only my second one, but I'll be doing that. And if you don't catch that, you can always catch that on the replay on GoindieNow. But we'll be back next week with another coffee break. We also have our flagship show on Friday, so definitely go check that out. Mr. JD Estrada is a part of that. He has a music review for us. Yes. And we're all done. So it's always time to go indie now. Thank you.
Cheers.